Welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I'm CarrieVee, your biggest fan. And this podcast is all things confidence, clarity, leadership, communication. It is all things life. And I love it when I get to bring an amazing guest onto the show because they bring gold that I can't bring you because it's not my field of expertise, but it is Danny's form of expertise. So, Danny, welcome to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I am so glad you're here because of anybody listening, I need your message more than anyone. So welcome.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it.
Yes, not as much as we do, I can guarantee it. So, Danny, what is lighting you up? I know you've got the picture of your book behind you on the screen. So, if you're watching, you see it. If you are just listening in on a podcast app, Danny is going to talk about his book, a little bit of a hole here. And we want to know what are the goals? I mean, I have scanned through this book. I'm going back to read it cover to cover because it's one of those books you don't want to miss a page. I can already tell, but the gold in here and the number of things I have highlighted is insane. So, Danny, let's just zip me up and let you talk and lay it on us, dude.
Sure. I'll give you a little background on this book. Growing up, both my parents were they're immigrants, and coming to this country, not speaking the language. When I was growing up, they said right away, just be nice to everybody. Be nice to everybody, and that's going to solve all your problems. The problem with that is, and I was a great kid. I never got my name on the board. Everybody loved me.
Yeah.
But did girls like me? No, because I was too soft. Did I get picked on by bullies because I was an easy target? 100% I did. And so I started learning that being nice isn't the end game. It's being kind and being respected. And so I've ebbed and flowed through that through my college years, through my professional years, where I've still got that basic people pleasing tendency in me because I like making people happy. But what we've got to realize, if you are a people pleaser, that people tend to take advantage of you. And take it a step further, you actually lose your identity because you're so focused on taking care of others and not yourself. And so it's really important to learn. And the whole book is all about being able to say no, set appropriate boundaries, and know when it's time to use the a-hole energy spectrum, we call it, because there's going to be relationships that are going to suffer if you don't set boundaries. And if you do set boundaries, the relationship might fail. And that's okay because that's not a person you'd wanted to work with or be with in the first place. So it's all about taking care of yourself, building your self-confidence, learning to say no and set boundaries.
I absolutely love this. So much gold in there that you've already shared. I love the distinction between being nice and being kind. Those are two very, very separate things from what you are saying. Did I
Mhm.
get that correctly?
Very much.
Can you give us an example, Danny, of what is being nice? I'll put that in air quotes in case you're just listening. And what is being kind? Like, can you give us an example of that where someone might get themselves in trouble by being nice rather than focusing on being kind?
I'll use the example of my son. He's he just finished his freshman year in college. Wonderful kid, love him to death. But when I got divorced 5 years ago, I let both of my kids kind of just do whatever they want financially. I said, as long as it's not over X amount, I don't care. Just do it because they were with home with me and I wanted them to be happy. It was during COVID, et cetera. And then that's my example of being nice. By being kind, I'm trying to teach him right now some financial lessons on budgeting and learning how to spend appropriately when you don't have a lot of money. So we put him on a very strict budget, and he's gotten better at it. He's far from perfect, but he's gotten a lot better. But he's learning those appropriate lessons because I told him, when you get out of school, you're not going to make the money I make. You're not going to be able to spend the same amount of money that you're not going to be able to order DoorDash every friggin' night.
Uh-huh.
So to me, I think that's a good distinction between being nice. But again, when you're nice, you get taken advantage of. And I don't think he did it on purpose. It's just, I'm his dad. Or being kind, which is teaching appropriate lessons. And again, learning respect in the relationship. Our relationship has grown, I think, exponentially better over the past year because the respect by setting boundaries has grown as well.
That's so huge. And I love that you gave this example of parent-child. I have seen I'm 60, so looking backwards and seeing all these generations coming up now, I see a lot of parents that are being nice to their kids,
Mhm.
calling them their best friends. He's my
Yep.
best bud. They don't really need you to be their best bud. That's my opinion. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you 100%. And I was never good at that because I was always traveling. I was always working. When I shifted into entrepreneurship, my kids were 2 and 6 months, and I spent a lot more time with them. But we were good friends. And there are some good aspects to that. Like my daughter tells me everything. At one time, my son told me everything too. So we had that kind of relationship. But as they've gotten older, I couldn't be their friend anymore. I needed to be their advocate, their mentor, someone that can advise them appropriately, but they've got to live their life and make their own decisions. So I 100% agree with you that when you are a friend, you tend to lose that respect factor. And so my kids actually wouldn't even know if I was being serious when I was disciplining them. A lot of times they would laugh, and I'm like, no, 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 seriously, don't do that. And I think that that's where you fall into. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. But you're looking at someone that made a mistake as well.
Yeah, I did too. I did too, if I'm honest. Also went through a divorce and tried to be the nice parent, and it does come around to bite you. And not that
Mhm.
it can't be fixed, but it takes more effort, I think, to fix it on the back end than just do it the correct way from the beginning.
100%.
Okay, so let's move on to this topic of boundaries as an executive life coach, as a trainer, and as a speaker. The number one question I get from clients is around boundaries and how do I set boundaries? But more importantly, how do I maintain boundaries? And are they really that important? Like, am I really going to regret not making boundaries? Can you walk us through it? Do you have a process for helping people through this, understanding it, why it's important, all that? I'll just let you rip.
Well, I think there's a few good topics here. If you don't set boundaries, people will take advantage of you,
True.
and you're not going to want that relationship anymore, whether it be personal or professional, because you're not getting anything out of it. You're only giving to it. So
Mhm.
you've got to set boundaries. And again, this is something that I am evolving with. I can give you two examples too. With my girlfriend, I had to set a boundary because she was always asking for X, and I said, "Look, I'm not going to do that anymore." And we had a huge fight, but
Mm,
we've kept that boundary. Is my boundary a little flexible? It is. That's not a big deal. But I had to tell her that because I literally told her, I said, if we don't do this now, we will not be dating in 6 months
mhm,
because I will get so frustrated and want to end the relationship. And quite frankly, I've done it a couple times.
mhm.
So, but if you don't set those boundaries, and again, to me, it's all about a gut feeling. When people ask me, how do you know when it's time to set boundaries? I always say when you feel it's kind of like almost I talk about fraud in my classes all the time and rationalizing behavior. If you don't feel comfortable with the decision you made, if you think you're going to regret it, if you're not going to sleep well at night, you need to set boundaries. You need to push back because again, it's only harming the relationship, not just you at that point. The other example I'll give you is I had a client a couple weeks ago. They want me to come out, but they said they've got a budget constraint and they were going to give me about half of my rate. And I told them, I said, I'm not going to do that, but thank you. And then they came back to, um, I offered them my other speakers. They said, no, we want you. I said, okay, well, here's what we'll do. Find me three other jobs that week that are paying my full price and we can do it. And they said they'll get back to me. So I'm waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things where I said no, but I gave them an alternative. And I think that's a very successful way to go. But if you don't set those boundaries, people are going to find out that I lowered my rate half price for these guys. And then people are going to start saying, "Hey, do you want to do it for this price?" And your whole rate structure is broken
Right.
at that point. You can apply that to personal and professional relationships.
That's powerful. I mean, once you set a precedence, it's hard to build that back up. What do you think is the biggest challenge people have with maintaining boundaries? Because I think it can be easy to make a list of your top 10 non-negotiables. These are my boundaries. But man, when you look at that list and your feet are put to the fire, how do we maintain those boundaries?
It's all about what you're comfortable with and being respectful of the relationship and the other person. I'll go back to my girlfriend. I love her to death. I'm very much in love with her. I have flexible boundaries with her until it becomes too much.
Mhm.
In the work situation, perfect example, we lowered our rates for this summer because summers are a little bit slow. And I had a client book something a couple weeks ago. They said, "Hey, we're not going to be ready. Can we push it to November?" I said, "That's fine, but the rate's going to go up." and
Mhm.
they're going to do it in August. But 10 years ago, Carrie, I probably would have said, you know what, let's do it and keep that rate. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And they were very respectful right away. They said, okay, let's do it in August then. So I think people learn to respect you more when you set boundaries. If you don't set them, people will never respect you, quite frankly.
Wow, that's very powerful. That's something really great to remember. Um,
Do you want to be respected or do you want to be liked? I think that's the bottom line. If you want to be respected, you need to set boundaries and learn how to say no. Not be rude, not be an a-hole, but just a little bit of one.
mhm, mhm. Okay, so let's look at that differentiation. I have retainers in. It's so hard for me to say some words. Let's look at that difference. That's easier for me to say between a little bit a-hole and just being a flat out nobody wants to be around you because you are. And you're allowed to say the word, by the way.
Okay, good, because I'm sick of saying a-hole.
No, you can say you can just say it.
Uh,
There
um,
are no boundaries on well, I shouldn't say there's no boundaries. I want you to speak as you are. I want you to be authentic.
the I think from being a little bit of an asshole versus being a full blown asshole. I give another example of my girlfriend. We she says a lot of things about me in a good and a bad way,
Mhm,
but she also knows if she pushes too hard, I will push back. And
mhm.
again, I'm not talking about physical. I'm not at all. I'm talking
Yes.
about, just completely discussion. And so people have to understand that, look, most people think I'm a nice guy, but as soon as they saw the title of this book, I had a client say, "Oh, dude, that's you. You're just a little bit of an asshole." Because again, you're enough of one where people respect you,
Mhm,
and people don't take advantage of you because they know you have your boundaries and you have your. I told my kids when they were growing up, I said, "You can do this or this. You can work within this boundary. Anything outside of that, we're going to have a big problem." And the kids respected that a lot. And so again, I was able to be their friend, but also be their parent, as well. So it's a fine line to walk, Carrie. Honestly, it's a very fine line. But being a little bit of an asshole doesn't mean I get up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to screw with this person. It just means that today I'm going to say no to somebody. I'm going to say no to someone that I'm not 100% sure I want to work with, or I want to
mhm,
do that, and push back, because a lot of this has to, I think I said this earlier, about self-confidence. It's when you are a people pleaser and don't set boundaries, you really hurt your self-confidence. When
mhm.
you learn to say no, you're going to realize, hey, that's not so bad. It's actually a good thing. I feel good about my decisions, and you're going to rebuild your self-confidence and build a little bit of an aura about you.
Yeah, I love that. Um, there's so many directions I could go right now with the next question, but let's go to this saying no to something every day. And I have that's part of my book that is highlighted. Say no to one person a day. Do you really find someone to say no to every day?
I do my best.
Okay.
When I work from home, it might not be possible, but I definitely do my best. Like, for example, I'm rushing through my walk because I'm going to see my girlfriend this morning, and my mom's like, "Okay, come in for 1 minute." And I look at her like, "Mom, come on." But again, it's my mom, so I'm not going to say no to her.
I get
Simple as that. It's
that.
those relationships that there's going to be a lot more flexibility in certain relationships than others. But for example, my son today, he said, "Hey, can I order DoorDash?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "Go pick up the food if you want to go order something, and we got food in the fridge." So again, I'm not. It's not trying to be abrasive. It's not trying to be rude. It's trying to, again, establish those boundaries to say, "Hey, you're wasting a lot of money here, and guess what? It's not yours. It's my money you're wasting."
Yeah.
So if you want to waste your own money, you go right ahead. So I do try to say no on a daily basis, but it's really just the thought process and telling myself that, hey, I'm capable of saying no to something if I think it's too much, or I think it's something I don't want to do, or I don't think there's value to it. Carrie, and I'm sure, you said you were 60, I'm 50. As I've gotten older, I've learned the most valuable commodity we have is time.
Mhm.
And if someone asks me to do something, though, people laugh at me all the time. I hire people to do everything. I focus on work, religion, and my kids. That's it. Today, I've got to help clean up my garage because my son moved back in, and he won't do it alone. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to help him out today. But I don't want to do that stuff, and those are the kind of things I usually say no to. Is, hey, can you help do this or that? It's like I don't have time for that. So I'm respectful. I might say no, but maybe I can do it this weekend. Or I'm just going to say, and here's another part of this, Carrie, is a lot of people feel like they have to explain themselves. It goes back to that rationalization. I don't want to offend you, so I'm going to say no, but I'm going to placate the whole thing. I don't think that's necessary sometimes. Sometimes saying, no, I appreciate the offer, but I can't do that. That's it. Don't need to explain. And I think if you're able to get to a point where you're saying no once a day or no once every few days and not having to explain yourself, you're going to grow your self confidence quite a bit.
Oh, I love that you brought this part in of not putting the qualifier on there. I know that I was raised to believe that if I said no to something, I had to give a reason why.
Yep. Me too.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. I can see your
Yep.
brain spinning like, I got
Yep.
to jump on this. Go for it.
No, I was exactly the same. It's like I always feel like I don't want to offend somebody, so I've got to explain myself.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's unnecessary. Now, if they ask me, "Hey, is there a reason why you can't do it?" I have no problem explaining. But I think we always jump the gun as a people pleaser to say, "No, I'm sorry, I can't do this, and here's why." It's like it might not be necessary. And again, this is one of those situations where you think you're being a little bit of an asshole. People are going to respect you more because you don't need to explain yourself.
Yes. Yes. And I love this. This is like firing me up here because I so agree with everything you're saying, and I have experienced this
Hmm.
in as I started my personal growth journey. I mean, late in life, I think I didn't start my own. I read my first personal development book. I was probably I might have been just almost 50, but
Hmm.
this is like a new journey. Maybe I was 49. I don't know. I mean, I remember the book. It was Brian Tracy's No Excuses, very first book, and I now have hundreds. I can't say I have read them all yet, but I have a list of the order in which I'm going to read them. And sometimes a great one comes in my path and it gets pushed to the top. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you. And it has been an exciting journey of this confidence growth. And my grandmother used to tell me to do something every day that scared me
Hmm.
because it would build my she called it my reserve. It would
Yeah.
build your reserve, right? I mean, she died in 1993. Um she was a very wise woman. She was almost 100 when she passed away.
Wow.
And I've kept that in mind my whole life because as a people pleaser, saying no terrifies me.
Hmm.
And before we started recording, I shared with you that I said yes to something that I had no business saying yes to. And when I said yes to that, I really said no to time with my family,
Hmm.
time reading. It's at my reading time that all these meetings happen. Time to grow myself, time to spend time with my husband. I
Hmm.
said no to all of that by saying a yes to something I had no time to really say yes to. It's been a huge, huge lesson.
Carrie, what you just said, I think is so poignant. It's not that you're saying no, saying yes to something. You're actually saying no to all these other important things in your life. And
Yes,
again, time's the most valuable resource we have.
yes,
Why are you going to do something that you don't value potentially? I mean, again, I'm sure it's for a great cause, etc. But if I
yes,
don't have time for it, guess what? I'm not going to put in the effort necessary at times, and
right.
so I'm not going to be as valuable to them because I don't think I can commit to this, even though I did.
Right, right, and like you, I travel a lot. I'm speaking in different states, I'm traveling all the time, so I'm missing meetings and then trying to catch up on things. It's driving everybody nuts.
Yep.
It's driving everybody crazy, including them,
Hmm.
and it has been quite a huge lesson. So, you brought up the confidence and growing your confidence. A lot of people will ask me, even after I speak in an event, well, why is confidence? Why do we really need it? I mean, I have a little bit. Do I really need more? How would you answer that question?
Man, that's a tough one. I think there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. And
Mm,
I probably straddle that line all the time, quite frankly. And I think any good presenter probably does because when you get on the stage, people look at you as an expert. And I'll be honest with you, I hate that because I'm not. I always tell people I'm not an expert in anything. I just know a lot about everything. And I don't view myself as a speaker. I view myself as a facilitator because I want people to get involved in the conversation. But if you're not confident in your message that you're sending, no one's going to listen to you.
that's right.
Period. And that's a bit one of the biggest issues we have with corporate America is you have people that are thrust into leadership roles that are very good technically, but to me, the two most important skills when you become a manager are obviously critical thinking, communication. Outside of that, public speaking and emotional intelligence. And those are skills that are not focused on and they're not taught a lot. And so if you can get up, I was talking to on another podcast, and the gentleman told me He said he has people apply all the time. He has people on his show that read slides are all monotone. It's like, I mean, nobody's going to care about that message because you are not engaging. You're not getting them excited. And that all comes from confidence, confidence in everything you do.
Yeah.
Everybody's attracted to confidence. So I always think it's very important to have. But again, there's a fine line between that and cockiness.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I straddle the line quite a bit myself now as well, though
Mhm.
when I started this journey, I realize now looking back how very little confidence I had, and I always thought I had plenty of confidence, but I had confidence as long as I was pleasing everyone around me, which
Yeah. Which is almost like false bravado, if that
oh,
makes sense.
extremely false
Yeah.
bravado,
Yeah.
extremely. Because once I felt like I was letting somebody down by standing up for myself, I crumbled.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't believe we're at 21 minutes already. If you wanted to point out one piece of gold from this book that we had to hold on to, and by the way, there's so much in here that we haven't touched on. I would love to have you back if you have the time and
I
don't
would
say,
love to. Thank
okay,
you.
yay, yay,
Yeah.
I'm glad I got a yes. I got a yes out of Danny Goldberg. But for today's podcast, if there was something that you were like, man, I wish you would have asked a question about this, what would it be?
I don't know if there's anything specific. I'm just going to go back to those key messages, and the book goes through, to your point, a lot of different messages, but the main themes are: be comfortable saying no, be comfortable in your own skin. Your goal isn't to please others. Your goal is to please yourself and others. You got to do both. You can't lose yourself in being a people pleaser, and get comfortable setting boundaries. So to your point earlier, make a list, and every relationship's going to be different. What are my non-negotiables here? And here's the things that I cannot accept, and be comfortable sharing them with that with the other person, because ultimately they're going to respect you more and treat you better because of the fact that you can set appropriate boundaries.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. This has been fun. Our time has flown. That's how I always know it's a really fabulous guest when I look up at the clock and I'm like, I thought we were 2 minutes in or 22 minutes in. So thank you.
My pleasure.
We always end a coffee and tea with CarrieVee podcast with a writing prompt from our guests, something to get somebody writing. What would it be today?
um, what are your top 10 negotiables in life, non-negotiables in life? And then I would also go back to, what is something I feel comfortable saying no to without having to explain myself?
That's
Maybe
powerful.
go back through over the past week or two. Is there anything we could have just said no to? Instead, we explained ourselves, or instead we just did it to placate to the person. So I think those two things, if you're able to go move away from this podcast with those two things, it's going to help you a lot.
Fabulous. Where can everybody find you, Danny?
My main company website is Gold, S is in Sam, R is in Ricky, D is in David.com, goldsrd.com. It's funny because you kept saying there was gold in there all the time, and I use the term gold nuggets all the time.
I love it.
You can find the book on Amazon, or you can go to the website in North America on littlebitahole.com and order one directly from me, and I'll even devalue the copy and sign it for you. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and that's why I put in my middle initial, because there's a couple other famous Danny Goldberg. So just put in Danny M. Goldberg, and you'll be able to find me.
Okay, fabulous. And I will link all of that beneath the show notes. I'll put the Amazon link if you want it. But I'm telling you, you're going to want the signed version. So go to the website and get it directly. I have a signed version. This is like I'm gonna put it in a shadow box. I'm very excited. Danny, before we let you go, one more question. What is your superpower?
Oh my goodness, Carrie, don't ask me, ending questions like that. What's my superpower? I think it's the ability to not fear risk, and the ability to take risks, because I think a lot of people sit in corporate America their whole life. My dad sat at Raytheon for 43 years, was very successful, but he always regretted not doing his own thing, not taking another job. Don't fear taking chances in life. I think that's probably my biggest superpower. I'm conservative, but I have no problem taking risks, and we've got a couple of new ventures that are coming out here in the next few months that are definitely a risk taker, and I think are going to be very successful.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you on the show, excited that you've agreed to come back, and excited to have you back. Thank you for hanging out with us today and dropping those gold nuggets on us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
You're welcome.